Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Hope you're fine and taking good care of yourself. May Allah Kareem shower His countless blessings on you in this holy month of Ramadan. I'm sure you are fasting and saying prayers on regular basis. Do remember me in your prayers. Let's talk about our today's lesson now. Today we are going to talk about another major character from the play Merchant of Venice. As you know, we have already discussed three male characters from the play, means Bassanio, Antonio, and Shylock's character. Now we are going to discuss one of the female characters from the play, and that is Portia. This is our fourth and final character from the play. Before we discuss Portia's character, let's have a short recap of characterization, which has already been discussed in previous 3 video lessons, which were based on writing a character sketch. So we will see briefly what is characterization, how many types of characterization are there, and what are the major components of writing a character sketch. Characterization is the process by which the writer reveals the personality of a character. Characterization is revealed through direct and indirect ways. Direct characterization tells the audience what the personality of the character is like, whereas the indirect characterization reveals information about a character's personality through his words, thoughts, and actions, along with how other characters respond to that character, including what they think and say about him or her. Writers most often use indirect characterization to show things that reveal the personality of a character through its speech, thoughts, effect, actions, and physical looks. It's more like the way we learn about people in real life because we naturally observe people and characters in movies and films, etc. The letters in the word steal can help you remember the 5 different ways writers use indirect characterization to create characters. The first letter, S, stands for speech. Writers help readers learn about a character by giving the character something to say, and a unique way to say it. This brings out the personality of character. Here is an example of a dialogue. Hey, we can have lots of fun at camp this summer. I love being outside. Now, this speech of the character shows us the character is upbeat and happy. The next letter from the word steal is T, and it stands for thoughts. Now, writers allow readers to read the private thoughts of the characters to learn about the personality of the characters. Now, here is an example of a dialogue. I wish it would stop raining. I'm tired of sitting inside. Now, this shows us the character is not happy about the situation. The next thing in characterization is the effect on others. Means what can be learned about the character by reading how other characters feel or act around him or her. Now, writers create relationships for characters to help readers learn the personality of characters. In this way, we learn what is revealed through the character's effect on other people. How do other characters feel or behave in reaction to the character? Here is an example. The boy glared at his sister as she ate his dessert. Now, this shows us that the character is upset about his sister's behavior and inability to think of others. Another very important character trait is actions. What does the character do? How does the character behave? Now, here is an example. The girl rode the lawn mower through the house and into the garage. Now, this shows us the girl is not concerned with rules or safety. This is how the writers create actions for characters to help readers learn the personality of characters. The last but very important component of characterization is looks, means the physical appearance of the character. What does the character look like? How does the character dress? Now, here is an example. The little girl left the game with slumped shoulders and a frown on her face. Now, this shows us the little girl is not enjoying herself and is upset. So, this is how the writers use descriptions of characters' physical attributes to help readers learn the personality of characters. So, you see, adding indirect characterization to your writing is a powerful way to convey those unspoken thoughts and traits that convey the true essence of a person. Indirect characterization humanizes a character. By revealing a character's thoughts, emotions, and worldview in various contexts, you provide your reader with a robust understanding of who your characters are. Now, the question is, what is the difference between indirect and direct characterization? So, knowing the difference between these two will help you determine which one is better suited to your work. Indirect characterization describes a character through their thoughts, actions, speech, and dialogue. Whereas the direct characterization or explicit characterization describes the character through their physical description, line of work, or passions and pursuits. Remember, the difference between these two is telling versus showing. Means in direct characterization, the writer tells us what type of character we are reading about. Whereas in indirect characterization, the writer shows us the personality of the character by revealing it through the speech, thoughts, effects, actions, and looks. After this brief description of the characterization, let's move towards our today's character, that is Portia from the play The Merchant of Venice. Here is a list of words about Portia's character that may help you in writing her character sketch. The words are frustrated, beautiful, desired, intelligent, victorious, heroic, witty, cunning, and devious. Portia is a major character in the play The Merchant of Venice. She is beautiful, intelligent, cunning, and wealthy. Portia is the most eligible bachelorette in the land, and so she plays a major role in the main conflicts of the play. Shakespeare uses her to portray the irrationality of gender roles in Elizabethan times. Portia is the opposite of an Elizabethan housewife. She is outgoing, smart, and proactive, while a housewife was expected to be passive. Her smartness and boldness is quite evident from the action when she disguised herself and Nerissa as men in order to defend Antonio in court. She tells Lorenzo that Nerissa and she will stay in a monastery until their husbands return, which would be expected behavior at the time. But instead, they dress as men to save Antonio and see their husbands. Portia is involved in two major conflicts in the play. The first being the Caskel Test to win her hand in marriage, and the second being the court case of Shylock against Antonio. She has been the very important part of these two conflicts, and she played a very important role in resolving the second conflict. The first conflict in the play is Caskel Test. In order to ensure that Portia marries the right husband, Portia's deceased father leaves in his will a clause. This clause states that any potential suitor of Portia must choose the correct casket in order to marry her. Portia has no say in this matter. There are three caskets. The first casket is of gold and is incorrectly chosen by the Prince of Morocco. The second casket is of silver and is incorrectly chosen by the Prince of Aragon. Lastly, the third casket is of lead and is correctly chosen by Bassanio, partially in thanks to some help by Portia. Portia signs to Bassanio the clue of, with gazing fed and fancy dies, in the cradle where it lies. Now, the conflict is solved. By marrying Portia, Bassanio is no longer in debt and can now pay off his debt to Antonio, which was borrowed through Shylock. The second conflict in the play is Antonio's debt. In order to court Portia in Belmont, Bassanio borrowed money from Antonio, whose ships have now sunk, and thus he cannot pay off his debt to Shylock without letting Shylock cut off a pound of his flesh. Bassanio comes to save Antonio with the money needed, but Shylock will only accept flesh as payment. Portia and her maid Nerissa dress as men in order to go to Venice and solve this conflict. They do so by saving Antonio through a loophole in the agreement, stating that Shylock can only cut a pound of flesh, no more or less. Shylock also cannot make Antonio shed blood. Another Venetian law states that if an alien attempts to take the life of a citizen, he must seize his goods, and his life goes to the mercy of the judge. Shylock is shamed and the conflict is solved through Portia's intelligence. Now, if we talk about the growth and development of Portia's character in the play, we see that Portia maintains the same values and characteristics throughout the play. But those characteristics had become apparent only later in the play as we learned more about her. A very important characteristic of Portia is she is proactive. Portia is the opposite of a typical Elizabethan wife. She is proactive, while a wife is expected to be submissive and passive. It frustrated Portia not to be able to have a say in the choosing of her husband. As she states, "Oh, me, the word choose. I may neither choose who I would nor refuse who I dislike. So is the will of a living daughter curbed by the will of a dead father." This frustration hints at her proactive nature, which is not fully revealed until she goes to save Antonio and tricks Bassanio into giving Portia his ring. By saving Antonio in the Venetian court, Portia proved that she exceeded the intelligence of many men. In order to be listened to by the court, however, she had to disguise herself as a man. This shows how illogical it was to treat men as more intelligent than women. Antonio owes his life to Portia because without her, Shylock would have his pound of flesh. Bassanio illustrates this by stating to Portia, "Most worthy gentleman, I and my friend have by your wisdom been this day acquitted of grievous penalties." If we summarize Portia's character, we can say she is a wealthy heiress from Belmont. Portia's beauty is matched only by her intelligence, bound by a clause in her father's will that forces her to marry whichever suitor chooses correctly among three caskets. Portia nonetheless longs to marry her true love, Bassanio. Far and away the cleverest of the play's characters, Portia disguises herself as a young male law clerk in an attempt to save Antonio from Shylock's knife. I hope after this brief elaboration of Portia's character, you will be able to write her character sketch in your own words. So, good luck for your task. See you in the next lesson. Till then, Allah Hafiz. Goodbye. Thank you.